Chapter 46. 500 seconds later, his heart was still beating. Mr. Pedanski screamed. The lizard which had been on the cereal box was springing toward him. Mr. Sir shot in midair. Stanley felt a blast shatter the air around him. The lizard scurried frantically across his very still body. He did not flinch. A lizard ran across his closed mouth. He glanced at Zero, and Zero's eyes met his. Somehow they were both still alive. At least for one more second. At least for one more heartbeat. Mr. Sir lit a cigarette. "I thought you quit," said one of the other counselors. "Yeah, well, sometimes sunflower seeds just won't cut it." He took a long drag of the cigarette. "I'm going to have nightmares for the rest of my life." "Maybe we should just shoot him," suggested Mr. Pedanski. I thought Mr. Pedanski was nice. That's horrible. "Who?" asked the counselor. "The lizard or the kids?" Mr. Pedanski laughed grimly. "The kids are going to die anyway." He laughed again. "At least we got plenty of graves to choose from." "We've got time," said the warden. "I've waited this long. I could wait another few." Her voice trailed off. Stanley felt a lizard crawl in and out of his pocket. "We're just going to have to keep our story simple, boys," said the warden. "That woman's going to ask a lot of questions. The AG will most likely initiate an investigation, so this is what happened. Stanley tried to run away in the middle of the night. He fell into a hole, and the lizards got him. That's it. We're not even going to give him Zero's body. As far as anyone knows, Zero doesn't exist. Like Mom said, we got plenty of graves to choose from." "Why would he run away if he knew he was going to get released today?" said Mr. Pedanski. "Who knows? He's crazy. That's why we couldn't release him yesterday. He was delirious. We had to keep watch over him so he wouldn't hurt himself or anybody else." "She's not going to like that story," said Mr. Pedanski. "She's not going to like anything we tell her," said the warden. She stared at Zero and at the suitcase. "Why aren't you dead yet?" she asked. Stanley only half listened to the talk of the counselors. He didn't know who that woman was or what AG meant. He didn't even realize that they were initials. They sounded like one word, AG. His mind was focused on the tiny claws that were moving up and down his skin and through his hair. He tried to think about other things. He didn't want to die with the images of Warden, Sir, and lizards etched into his brain. Instead, he tried to see his mother's face. His brain took him back to a time when he was very little, all bundled up in a snowsuit. He and his mother were walking hand in hand, mitten in mitten, when they both slipped on some ice and rolled down a snow-covered hillside. They ended up at the bottom of the hill. He remembered he almost cried, but instead he laughed. His mother laughed too. He could almost feel the same light-headed feeling he had felt then. Dizzy from rolling down the hill, he felt the sharp coldness of the snow against his ear. He could see the flecks of snow on his mother's bright and cheery face. This was what he wanted. This is what he wanted to be when he died. This was where he wanted to be when he died. "Hey, caveman, guess what?" said Mr. Sir. "You're innocent after all. I thought you'd like to know that. Your lawyer came to you yesterday. Too bad you weren't here." The words meant nothing to Stanley, who was still in the snow. He and his mother had climbed back up the hill and rolled down again, this time on purpose. Later they had hot chocolate with lots of melted marshmallows. "It's getting close to 4:30, said Mr. Pedanski. "They're going to be waking up." The warden told the counselors to return to their tents. She told them to give the campers breakfast and to make sure that they didn't talk to anyone. As long as they did as they were told, they wouldn't have to dig any more holes. If they talked, they would be severely punished. "How should we say they should be punished?" one of the counselors asked. "Let them use their imaginations," said the warden. Stanley watched the other counselors return to their tents, only leaving the warden and Mr. Sir behind. He knew the warden didn't care whether the campers dug any more holes or not. She'd found what she was looking for. He glanced at Zero. A lizard was perched on his shoulder. Zero remained perfectly still, except for his right hand, which slowly formed a fist. Then he raised his thumb, giving Stanley the thumbs-up sign. Stanley thought back to what Mr. Sir had said to him earlier about bits of conversation he'd overheard. He tried to make sense out of it. Mr. Sir had said something about a lawyer, but Stanley knew his parents couldn't afford a lawyer. His legs were sore from remaining rigid so long. Standing was still more strenuous than walking. He slowly allowed himself to lean against the side of the hole. The lizards didn't seem to mind.